Calling all Stu's Wrestling Podcast fans, this is your opportunity to help out Stu. Vote for Stu's Wrestling Podcast in the BBC Sounds Listener's Choice Awards. Head to www.britishpodcastawards.com. The winner will be announced on Saturday, the 11th of July, 2020, at the British Podcast Awards. Don't forget to smack down a vote for Stu's Wrestling Podcast before midday, 6th of July. You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast, established 2019. Direct from the North Wales coast, his verbal skills definitely outweigh his wrestling ability. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer.
A warm welcome, it's episode 36. What a pleasure this one was to do, unbelievable. Tyson Kidd has come on the show, aka TJ Wilson if you watch Total Divas and you weren't familiar with him in WWE. And can I just say a big thank you to Barry Horowitz and Richie Sorrentino for sorting this out. I wouldn't have been on for this. It's incredible getting a guy that I respected highly as a wrestler. He's now a producer. I've met TJ a few times at events and things, so it was an absolute honour to get him on. And yeah, we talk about the origins, obviously him being around the Hart family, him then going into wrestling and beginning wrestling in 1995. He had a 20-year career wrestling. Getting signed and being down in Deep South for a couple of years. Then coming up to the main roster. And also his time in NXT. He went to NXT. There was a plethora of talent down there. He had some awesome matches. I consider them some of the best, in my opinion, that he's done. So here we are, episode 36, part 1 of the two-parter with Mr. Tyson Kidd, aka TJ Wilson. Enjoy. Right, it is my honour and privilege to have on today on Stu's Wrestling Podcast, Mr. TJ Wilson, but you know him most notably as Tyson Kidd. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
All good, all good. Right, first question is...
I just have to say quickly, it's funny how this got set up by Barry Horowitz, of all people.
I know.
This up, right?
I wouldn't be on for these interviews without Barry, so I don't know how...
So funny, man.
How am I going to pay it? How am I going to pay it back? I just don't know. How? He probably won't. He probably won't want paying back, CJ. But
no. But I just thought it's so funny that all of a sudden I have a group chat on Facebook, and it's yourself and Barry Horowitz, and Barry's saying that, saying nice things about you, and so just so funny. The world, and especially the wrestling world, is a very funny place, man.
It is, man. It is. How's lockdown been, TJ?
For me, it's been okay because I've been lucky enough to we've still been working. We've still been doing, Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-view. So it's obviously a different schedule right now where we're taping some in advance just so you can kind of have like a bit of a break and a quarantine in between filming. But so for me, it's kind of, I've been okay with it. And in terms of, I finally decided to get on it rather than talk about it, and I've almost finished my home gym now. So, that's a cool thing that I kind of floated the idea around before, but never really fully committed to it. And then I'm a big gym lover, and I had to commit to it through this. So for that, it's been okay. Obviously, it's hopefully we get all this under control, and I would like to see our lives resume back to normal for everybody.
That's cool, man. I'm gonna get onto wrestling now. When did you first come across pro wrestling as a kid when you were younger, man? That's the first one I've got to ask.
Yeah, so I first came across it as a young kid. One of my older cousins showed it to me, and man, it's real hazy, but I think I can remember the Killer Bees and Demolition. And as most young boys would do at that time, I watched some wrestling, and then I wanted to imitate what I saw on TV. And I have two younger sisters and a single mom. So that wasn't looked upon too highly in the household. And wrestling quickly got taken away. I wasn't on to watch it anymore. And then I became friends with Teddy Hart in school. And then I got snowballed in, man. And SummerSlam, I started watching a lot more regularly because I'd be like, you know, as a kid, you have sleepovers and stuff. We'd sleep over on the weekends. And Saturday morning, you know, WWF Challenge and WWF Superstars comes on. So I started getting into it. And then SummerSlam 92, and I know maybe it sounds cliche or whatever, but SummerSlam 92, Bret versus Davey, I didn't realize at that time, I didn't realize wrestling could look like that. And then, like, I already was, like, getting hooked, and then that was, like, the final bite. And the bug had bitten me bad.
I was at Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
We travelled, Dad, I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Travelled from North Wales on the coast, and we went down on the bus. I was there, man. I was in that stadium, so yeah.
I wish
it was.
It's funny, Harry too, and Harry's about 6 or 7 at that time as well.
I wish, in some respects, I wish I was a little bit older when I was in the stadium. It's
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of a blur, but yeah, man.
And to really understand it, right? You have 83,000 people, all kind of cheering for the same common goal. That's unbelievable.
There was a split within the audience though as well.
Yeah.
Everyone would have thought it would have been all for Davey, but Bret just at the time, as you know,
he had such. I mean, he has appeal everywhere, but such an appeal in Europe and Germany, and there's just obviously in Canada, you know, and America too. But there's just some. Especially if you watch a lot of his stuff back, there's a certain like swagger that he had that maybe people didn't realize even at the time, but maybe like in your subconscious it would kind of get you. And you're right, like it was split in terms of obviously people want to see their hometown guy win, but then like throughout the match, and I think you know that body of work that he put together, especially you know SummerSlam '91 against Mr. Perfect, I think you know people really started to get behind Bret on a worldwide basis.
Which guys? Just going back to you now, and as a fan, from a fan perspective, which other guys did you enjoy watching at the time when you were growing up?
Like obviously, I'm going to be very biased in terms of you know Bret, Davey, Shawn. Shawn Michaels for sure. I would get chastised a little bit in the Hart family being a big Shawn Michaels fan when we were younger. Jim Neidhart, Baby Boy. Brian Pillman, I liked as a Jushin Liger. What's funny is then I would go back. I was only, you know, 12, 13, 14. I was already starting to kind of do my homework and realize like all these Japanese guys had wrestled in Stampede Wrestling before. And then like, of course, Dynamite Kid. And then I started seeing like Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask. And I've heard about those matches. And this is, of course, pre-YouTube. Now I can find so much great stuff. But at the time, it just kind of like, if you maybe come across a tape, I don't know anything about tape trading when I'm at that age. Man, I liked a lot of funny, like, I remember like when Lex Luger did the whole, the Lex Express, like I became a big Lex Luger fan for that period of time. I was very intrigued, like that he was this bad guy literally the week before and he body-slammed Yokozuna out of nowhere. And like, that's like the storytelling really grabbed me at that time where I was like, wow, this really can happen just as quick as that. I
want to scoot forward a bit with that. Royal Rumble 1994, when they both dropped out. When they both dropped out at the same time, man, I was livid. I wanted Bret, but it was cool. It was cool how they did that program, wasn't it? With the
and that was the first time, right? Like a Royal Rumble had ended like that, and that was so interesting. I remember like being like. Just like you're saying, like, I wanted Bret to win. Then I'm a little frustrated that he didn't quite win. But then, like, they kind of go off the air without saying really who won. And there's refs raising Bret's hand and refs raising Lex Luger's hand. It was cool. It was very cool.
Pre-internet as well, TJ, which was great.
Yeah.
Looking back, man, that's just how it was. Right. Obviously, you're synonymous with the Harts. Can you have some stories about the Harts when you were younger? When you were with Teddy?
Oh, man. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Like, I've been around the Harts for almost 30 years of my life now, which is like, you know, 3/4 of my life. I just can really remember the the generosity that this giant family showed to everybody, but really to me as a young boy, as a 10-year-old boy. I remember going up to Stu's for the first time for Sunday dinner, and just like tons and tons of food for like, and it was, that first time I'm invited, every time actually was an honor, but that first time was like such an honor, and I'm real nervous, and I'm going up to Stu's for the first time for the Sunday dinner. But then I start to realize that like my cats are messing around in the background. Then I'm starting to realize everybody's invited, and like they were so generous, and Stu is such a generous person, and he really, I think, passed that down to his kids. Where like, like I said, everybody's invited to the Sunday dinner, and like that generosity, I think, extends with all of them. Like, I lived for a while with Davey and Diana and Harry and Georgia, and like nothing but generosity. In Calgary, there's a very famous drive-through hamburger place called Peter's Drive-In, very famous in Calgary. And when Brett was training for his return with Steve Austin, Teddy and I were going to his house a lot at that time, like almost every day after school, and wrestling in his ring. And one time he gave me a ride home, and he was dieting really hard for this match. I remember Julie making this like green pasta that nobody liked, but Brett was trying to get it down. Anyway, he stopped by this Peter's, and he said, "You like Peter's?" I said, "Yeah, man." And then I didn't say, "Yeah, man." I was like so nervous and shy. I might have peeked out, "Yeah." And he ordered like a double burger and a single burger, and I was like, "Wow, he's ordering me a hamburger. That's so cool." And he gave me the double burger. Like, that's how generous these people are. This is Bret Hart. At that time, he's former 2 or 3 time world champion, or he's coming back to wrestle Steve Austin at Survivor Series '96, and like, I don't know, man, that the family's generosity is like a giant thing that stands out to me, and that's what I try to pay forward a lot of times with my friends and people that I'm around.
It's cool, man. That's cool. That's amazing. That's just, I love the Hart since I was big.
Yeah,
it's just cool. It's just cool that you were in amongst it, especially then.
Well, here's a funny story about that. So like, Teddy's brother. So Teddy was away at school. He was going to like this sports school in a different province, and I was at Sunday dinner with his brother. And this is the next Sunday is going to be WrestleMania 12. We're a week away from WrestleMania 12, and Owen was at Sunday dinner, which is very rare. He's usually on the road, but he was there. And Teddy's brother was going to WrestleMania as a guest with his mom through Brett. And then Owen said, "Hey, TJ, are you going to WrestleMania?" And I was like, "Of course I'm not going to WrestleMania. It's in Anaheim, California. It's not here in Calgary. Like, of course I'm not going." I said, "No." He said, "You're not going?" I said, "No." Like, no. And then I got home that night, and then Teddy's mom called me and said, "Hey, Owen wants to invite you to WrestleMania 12 as his guest. He'll fly you down, but he knows how much you love wrestling, and he would love for you to be his guest at WrestleMania 12. So I got to witness the Iron Man match live because of, again, Owen's generosity and just being at the Sunday dinner where Owen, on a whim and a week's notice, invites me to WrestleMania. It's insane.
I bet you're just overwhelmed.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, even now I can't really express the gratitude of it. It's hard.
Oh, it's crazy, man. Right, I'm going to fast forward a bit into
Sure.
97. Obviously, Canadian Stampede. I've got to ask about it because obviously at the time, us as fans, we didn't know about the family as such, did we? Especially the kids and stuff. How was Canadian Stampede? The build-up, the day, everything. How was it?
Gives me goosebumps. Gives me goosebumps talking about Canadian Stampede, man. I can't watch that match though, feeling emotional. Man, the energy in that arena was so nuts. It was so nuts. That was Taka and the Great Sasuke have a match on that pay-per-view, just kind of like with really no like build and like I remember seeing I was sitting front row with Harry, and I remember seeing that match live and being blown away and being like, wow, like if this is the best thing on the show, that's awesome. And then of course, the 10-man tag comes along and destroys everything on the entire show. And the crowd was unbelievable. for the entire match, I don't know how long it is with entrances and everything. It's maybe 40-something minutes or close to 50 or something. I don't know. But I'm sitting beside Harry, and like we can't even speak to each other. It's so loud in that arena. And if you go watch it back, you'll see the camera shaking a lot, and you'll hear the announcers talking about. A lot of times, it's the sound doesn't always come through on TV in terms of like the arenas. Like I've been in arenas that are rocking. You watch on TV and it's good, but not quite what it sounded like actually being there. And I mean that night was one of the craziest things ever. And then the next that night we had there's a big barbecue at Stu's after the pay-per-view. And so like, yeah, I mean, it was a fun time. And the next day I drive up to Raw in Edmonton with Bruce Hart drove, but with Davey Boy and Brian Pillman. What an experience for us. I was about to turn 17, but a 16-year-old kid.
I just to touch upon Bret and Austin at the time.
Yeah.
That feud, man, that had more legs. That had more legs again, didn't it? I know they had a great.
Oh man!
Imagine how much further that could have gone if Bret hadn't have gone to WCW.
Dude, when I sit and like fantasy book, could you imagine if somehow corporate, Mr. McMahon character came about without the screw job, and then imagine like Bret siding with corporate Mr. McMahon against Steve Austin. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Their matches and that everything they did felt so real and felt very authentic. Can you imagine because think about their matches, the WrestleMania 13 match, which I think is the perfect match, the Survivor Series 96 match. Bret and Steve's matches were never for a title, and especially never for the world title. Can you imagine you add that to it as well?
I still hold them. I'm not just blowing smoke because it's Bret, and obviously how well you know Bret. The matches, man, they're still in the top three. I've got even just to go back to '92, TJ. Bret and Piper at WrestleMania 8, classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Yep. Oh, it does not age. I don't know how you look at it. Performer.
Yep. Same thing. I think I know that some studying went down. Like I've been watching a lot of Bret's matches recently, and like I just think, can you imagine like it's funny to me that like his prime at 40 years old, he was in his prime. That's crazy. And like I think Vince and I think WWF knew, and Bret, they had such they knew each other so well that I think, the WCW run never quite materialized to maybe what it could. Well, definitely didn't materialize to what it could or should have, unfortunately. But man, like if you just imagine like 2 years later, imagine like Bret versus Austin, and imagine like what The Rock ends up becoming, and imagine Bret and The Rock at that time. I'm like missed out on some really, really, really awesome moments and matches, I think, which, you could say that about a lot of things, but it's with Bret, it feels a bit more real, I guess. So
many, like you said, just so many guys. I obviously, I'd sit and watch Nitro as a kid, and I was chuffed that he was there, but yeah, just...
Man, I could be wrong about this. So, well, I know I'm not wrong about this. So we didn't get Nitro until like '97 in Canada, which is when Bret went there.
Wow, I thought you'd have it here.
And it would air on Wednesdays, and it would air in the afternoon, the full 3 hours, because it was 3 hours at that time, I believe. It would air the full 3 hours. It would air in the afternoon, but I'd be in school that first year. And then at night, they would air a 2-hour version. So like it'd be an hour being edited out. But like, so I remember like watching and being like, oh, Bret wasn't on Nitro this week. But then like seeing something on the internet and being like, oh no, he was on Nitro. His segment for some reason didn't air on Nitro in Canada, the 10 o'clock one. You think of all the segments you're going to keep on on Nitro in Canada. Our Bret Hart segment is going to be one that you keep on. But I don't think there was a lot of people managing certain things very well. And I think just a lot of things fell through the cracks.
The most integral part of the show for Canada, and it's not on there.
Yeah, for real.
Go figure, man.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right, I'm going to get to you now. and about how you
Sure.
got your start training.
So in 1994, the summer, Teddy's brother, who passed away 2 years later from flesh-eating disease. He and Harry wrestled a match. Every summer they'd run these two shows in this little town called Rockyford, Alberta, about an hour outside of Calgary. This rodeo, and Stu had a great relationship, and they'd bring him in for over 30 years. So anyway, the family got an idea that Harry and Matthew have a match. And I remember sitting in the crowd. It's funny. I kind of I wasn't growing out of wrestling by any means, but I was kind of, maybe I was watching it every week, but I was kind of doing my own thing. And I remember I had a video camera, and Teddy came to my house to borrow my video camera. And then I had a friend over, and I was like, you guys can just borrow it. I'm not going to come with you. And then they're like, my friends were like, well, actually, I'm going to go home. And I was like, okay, I'll come check out these matches with you guys. So I go there, and Teddy and I are sitting in the front row, and we watch his younger brother, and we watch Harry have this match. And then same thing as watching that SummerSlam 92 match where I got bit as a fan. Now this time I got bit okay, next summer we're doing this too. And we literally trained ourselves for that whole year, just wrestling on a crash pad. And then if Owen came by, he would give us a tip or two. Everyone would always help us out. We always had help. And then July 1995, I had my first match at that Rockyford Rodeo. It's a tag match. Teddy and his brother Matthew against myself and Harry. And man, I've never felt so nervous in my life. And, but then when it was done, it was very rewarding. Not only when it was done, when I was in it, it was rewarding. But I just remember being so nervous before and being man, I don't like this feeling. This sucks. But then the trade-off for how good you feel in the ring and after, you get used to it. And then after that, we started going down to the dungeon. Started going down to I'm sorry, I take that back. The next summer, we did another tag match. And then we started coming down to the dungeon on a regular basis since I was 16 years old.
I know I've obviously heard many times about Stu and the dungeon. Yeah. Your personal experiences in the heralded, highly proclaimed dungeon. That's what I want to hear now.
Man, there was some hard training down there. So a little bit after my first match, there was a show. I think it's on YouTube. Part of it is the Stu birthday show from 1995. The main event is actually Brett versus Davey, and 2 days later they have the In Your House match from Hershey. But there was this Bret Hart birthday show, and so TSN, which is Canada's ESPN at the time, they came down and they were filming some stuff, and they were filming a bunch of footage of Stu. And now at this point, I'm a staple of these Sunday dinners and being around the house all the time. So I get called downstairs because there's only a couple other of the grandkids around. And then next thing I know, Stu's stretching me on the mat in front of these cameras, and I'm trying not to show that I'm in pain, but every single thing hurts so much, and I'm just trying to hold it in. And then Stu had this unbelievable, almost melody of submission holds, one that translates to the other, transition to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. And they're all finishing holds. I'll tap out to every single one of them. I don't need 10 of them. I'll tap out to the first. But yeah, it was. So that was the first time I really got stretched by Stu, and I got stretched by Stu, on a few more occasions, demonstrating holds and stuff like that. And of course, it's especially in Calgary at that time. I mean, not at that time, but I think in general. But it was in Calgary wrestling. That was a thing of honor, and it definitely was. But man, it hurt like hell. Yeah.
Is wrestling fixed? I didn't know it was broken. This is Bill Apter. And in my book, titled Is Wrestling Fixed? I Didn't Know It Was Broken, you can find out all the backstage stories. What is Vince McMahon really like? What's Triple H really like? How about my relationship through the years with Ric Flair, the American Dream, Jerry the King Lawler, and much more? Go right now to Amazon.com or any place you buy your books and look for Is Wrestling Fixed? I Didn't Know It Was Broken by Bill Apter. See you at the matches.
GTG, often imitated but never duplicated. Kind of broad at the shoulder, narrow at the hip. No other promotion give us any lip. We the best of the best, the beasts of the East. SOS, simply out of sight. GTG.
What he said, good times guaranteed.
How did your early career progress? Obviously, you're saying about the bookings and stuff. Where did you go from the early bookings in Calgary?
So then Calgary Stampede Wrestling, actually, in 97, we had a bunch of amateur wrestlers and stuff. We were doing amateur wrestling, and Diana and Davey kind of like almost recruited these 3 coaches to come kind of learn pro wrestling. They were like young guys that were teaching amateur wrestling, and I kind of reached their pinnacle of amateur wrestling. One of them was maybe a national champion. They all 3 were very good amateur wrestlers, and Davey thought they'd be very good professional wrestlers as well. So now they started coming to the dungeon and training, and then you know, all of a sudden we kind of had, not we, but like Ross and Bruce had a roster of guys that could kind of, everyone was really, really green, but they had a roster of guys that could kind of run shows with. So now, so we started running a bunch of shows around Alberta, but we stayed out of Calgary. I think the theory was like, we can't, without trying to hurt anyone's feelings, or like, we can't really showcase everybody in Calgary. We can't showcase Calgary, you guys, to Calgary yet, because Calgary is very, they've seen some amazing wrestling over the years, and they're going to give you a chance. And if they go the one time and the wrestling's not up to par, Calgary might walk away from it. So for like 2 years, these guys and myself, when I could, we were wrestling on all these small little shows all around Alberta. Sometimes you might have an awesome crowd of like, you know, say like 400 people or something, 500, I don't know. And sometimes you're wrestling in front of 6 people or whatever. And, you know, but it's all experience, and it's all just reps. And then Stampede Wrestling started on TV, and they did a year of TV in 99 and 2000. And I was on some of those shows. And from that, the guy who started this thing called Matt Rats, he was a part of Stampede Wrestling. And then later, Ross Hart introduced me to my Japanese trainer, Tokyo Joe. And then that's when I started going to New Japan and I went to England, and things started really happening for me.
Whereabouts in England? Which promotions?
All-Star. I wrestled for All-Star Wrestling. I was there for 4 months in 2005, from January till the beginning of May.
Wow.
I'm trying to think if I wrestled for maybe one called like GCW once with Mikey Whiplash. And Davey's father actually came to the show it was a little outside of Goulburn. And both times I went there was for All-Star Wrestling. So I was wrestling like the Butlins camps, but the first time I was there was a lot of town shows, Croydon, and a lot of places like that.
Was it good? Was it good coming over to the UK at that time?
Yeah, it was very good. It was good for me to experience wrestling like that on a full-time basis. Like I have a weird memory for certain things, but I know that first time I was there for 105 days, and I wrestled 75 shows in those 105 days. And then the next time I was there, which was right before my tryout with WWE, I was there for 63 days. I was there for 9 weeks. I had 56 shows, so I had 7 days off in 9 weeks. And yeah, so it just it's a ton of reps, man, and you learn a lot. I learned a lot in England. I definitely valued my time there. I didn't look back at it with any kind of, you know, bad feelings or anything. I enjoyed my time there, and I definitely learned a lot and took a lot away from there.
Adding stuff to your tool belt in the early career.
Sure, 100%.
That's cool.
Like there was a guy that was a trainee under the school there, and like his very first match one day is him and one of the guys against myself and Chad Collier. You know, Chad's been wrestling a long time too. At that time, I've been wrestling for 11 years, which seemed long. Now it doesn't, but it seemed long at the time. And this is this guy's very first match ever. So like there was a lot of things like when you're wrestling someone for their first match, you really have to, like, you have to put yourself back in the time you had your first match, and like, how did you feel? And how, like, I can tell you, I told you, I know how nervous I was. So I could only imagine. I was wrestling my friend. He doesn't, like, he is friendly. He and I were friendly. He knows me, but he's never wrestled me. He doesn't know if that switch flicks and I'm a different person. So it was cool. Like, I learned a lot there. Like you said, just adding different things, putting different things in my tool belt, especially in terms of wrestling on like that constant of a basis.
That's cool, man. When, like, just on a timeline basis now, when was the call from WWE for like developmental?
So this is while I was over there in the summer of 2006, I got a call confirming like, hey, your tryout is the first week of October at Deep South. So while I was over there, I knew that I had my tryout coming up.
Who else was in and around Deep South at the same time as you?
So Natty and I had a tryout at the same time, as well as Alpha Junior Manu. And guys that were there were Luke Gallows, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, all still very good friends of mine. Sonny Siaki was there. Brad J. Connor from Ascension. Chrissy Vane. Angelina Love. Kevin Matthews, I think, he was there for my trial, but he was injured.
That's quite the list of names, that.
Yeah. It was really cool. Dave Taylor was one of the coaches there, but I teamed with Dave and wrestled with Dave in England. So when I walked in, I'm so nervous for my tryout, so nervous. And I walk in, and the first face I see is Dave Taylor. And he's like, TJ! And then, like, man, I didn't feel at ease, but it definitely eased the situation. MVP was another one. MVP was the first guy. He was the first guy I did a drill with it in the Deep South.
It's great. I know it's like the present. It's good seeing MVP back on TV.
Yeah, man. He's been doing awesome, you know. He's a hell of a character.
Charisma can't be taught.
Oh, yeah.
Can't be taught, can it?
No.
So from Deep South, what happened after the tryouts? What was happening then for you?
So I did the tryout. They called me back about a month later, and then I had to wait on my work visa. Then when I finally got to Deep South, there'd been a coaching change, and Dr. Tom Pritchard was the coach. And I'd actually teamed with him on an indie show in Seattle, Washington. So same thing. I kind of had a little bit of a, only one night, but at least I kind of knew him coming in. It was better than not knowing the guy. And Dr. Tom turned out to be a huge influence on my career and a huge, I did close to 2 years in developmental, and I couldn't have asked for a better coach for those 2 years than Dr. Tom. He understood what I needed to work on, and he understood how to help me, and he understood for me. He understood what I really like about Dr. Tom as a trainer, especially in the WWE system. He's very good at understanding individuals, and he knows that, like, at that time I've been already wrestling a certain number of years, and some guys in there were brand new. Some had maybe 3 or 4 years. We were all over the place. So he knew, like, I'd already wrestled for a bit, and he knew, like, I needed to work on promos. I needed to work on maybe these aspects of things. But then he also knew that he believed I could get a good match out of a lot of people. So I'd wrestle a lot of brand new guys. Like, I wrestled, like, Bo Rotundo's first match is against me. Dave Otunda's first match, like, in practice matches, is against me. A lot of these guys, their first match is against me. I remember Dr. Tom pulled me aside once and just said, hey, I hope you don't think I think, poorly of you, make you only wrestle new guys. He said, it's the opposite. I think very highly of you, and I want to see what you can get out of these guys. And I told him I understood, and it was not a big deal. But he also made a point not to really grind my body into the ground. He knew that I'd already put in the time. You'll never be done, kind of repaying the business. I get that. But he kind of knew that there was no point of running me into the ground, and he knew that I loved and respected the business. So he didn't have to, like, beat that into me. That was already there. That was already instilled in me. I'm already like, we're on the same page already. I don't need it to be work into me. I'm there. So
how was it? Obviously, I'm assuming you were crafting a move set down in Deep South. How was it putting together your moves and your persona?
Yeah, so that is an awesome question that I've never been asked. That is, yeah, that's an awesome question.
Sorry.
So Deep South, and then I was there for a month, and then it closes down, and we moved to Florida for FCW. But you're 100% right. So in Stampede Wrestling, I wasn't the biggest guy there, but I also wasn't the smallest. And then I mentioned Mat Rats. So Mat Rats was this concept where the talent, the performers were 21 years and under. So I was like training a lot of kids at the time, 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18 kids so they were smaller. So I was able to like have a combination of like quick moves, high flying moves, and power stuff. And then you come to WWE and you realize real quick that at 5'10" and 190 pounds, those power moves are out the window. They don't exist anymore. There was not a 205 Live at the time when I was first signed. I wish. When I got called up to the main roster, the only guys in my size were Jamie Noble, Rey Mysterio, and Evan Bourne. And otherwise, we're kind of in the land of the giants. So when you talk about moveset, my moveset changed where I realized, okay, I'm not going to be throwing, and not that I thought that anyway, but even when I went to Japan, in Japan, a lot of times I'm a junior heavyweight and I'm wrestling other junior heavyweights. So we're similar size. So I can do same thing, a combination of moves that involve some power, some speed. And like I said, you come to WWE and you're wrestling. He's not there at the time, but I like to use him as an example. But I don't think people realize just how big like Eric Rowan is. But he's like 6'8" and 360 pounds. And so, believe it or not, you're not throwing Eric Rowan around. And you got to find other ways. How are you going to knock him down? What are you going to do to Eric Rowan? And you got to. And I really started to understand, thinking outside the box like that. And that was like one of the things I really, really, really learned in my time in developmental was how to wrestle someone that maybe is a little bit green, and how to adjust my offense and how I'm going to tell this story. I really learned that in developmental.
Do you think the 2 years in developmental was the right amount of time for you?
It was perfect. It was perfect. I look back on those 2 years with fond memories. And it's not like I look back now with fond memories and during the time I didn't like it. I liked my time there too. I'd wake up with a smile on my face and go to practice with a smile on my face every day, knowing that I was on the road to achieving my dream. And I signed a WWE contract, and now the work begins, and I'm putting in this work. And we had great coaches, and once Billy Kidman came along, another awesome coach, Norman Smiley. Norman Smiley came and like changed everything. All of a sudden, everyone's working all these holds and stuff, which was really awesome. But like I was already working these holds before Norman came. Then he changed the landscape. Steve Kern, Dr. Tom, Dusty Rhodes then came in. Man, we had such a great crew of trainers down there. I literally was happy to go to work every day.
Right, I'm going to ask this now. Obviously, I remember yourself, Natty, and Harry coming up to the main roster. How was that being the new Hart Foundation?
Oh man, so that was insane. I remember. So the day that Harry debuts with us it's me against Finley, me against Fit, and then Harry comes out and we drop Fit, and the crowd was booing like crazy. We were in Dayton, Ohio, and man, it was great heat. It was great heat, and I remember thinking like, man, this is really cool. I think we kind of onto something. And the next week we had a backstage pre-tape, and they were like, hey, have you heard your new music? And we're like, no. And then they played it for us in this little room, and like it had, Natty still has like the same music, so it has that little riff like Brett's music. And I'm, obviously Brett's run by himself, but also that group of the Hart Foundation. Like that's literally what it brought me back to, that beginning part of the song. And like here's Natty and Harry, who I'm very close with. Like I trained Natty. Harry and I have trained together for, at that time, almost a decade and a half. So to be a team on WWE TV is like, it's like somebody wrote this in a book somewhere, and for some reason we're living this. Like it was literally like I mean, it sounds again so cliche, but it's a dream come true. Literally, we'd spent so much time on the road and talking about wrestling prior to being a team on WWE TV. At one point, Harry was living with us at our apartment in Florida. We had an 800 square foot apartment, and Harry's 6'5", so 800 square feet doesn't go too far with a guy that big. And it was the three of us living in this little apartment. Like we spent that's in 2007. We spent a lot of time together before we become the Hart Dynasty.
Who did you enjoy mixing it up with in the early days?
So originally, sorry, I'm just trying to adjust this thing.
Yeah, it's all right.
Does that look okay?
You're cool, man. You're in line. You're in line in the shot.
So originally we were wrestling a lot of random teams on like ECW. It would be like like Christian, like what it was, stuff to do with angles, but it was like Christian and Jack Swagger. Then Swagger leaves, and then it's kind of us 2-on-1 on Christian, and then it'd be like there was one time Fit got poked in the eye really hard in a backstage in LA. So then the match, like he really doesn't get cleared for the match. The match was supposed to be a 6-man tag, turns to a 3-on-2. I think it was like Tommy Dreamer, Christian against me, Harry, and Jack Swagger. So like it just was, we were wrestling random people that time. Then we got moved to SmackDown, and then I'm trying to think. So June 2009 until March 2010. So our 7 or 8 month Crime Time marriage began, and we wrestled Crime Time all the time. And I learned a lot from Crime Time. I learned a lot about personality and charisma, and how much that truly matters. Not that I didn't. I knew it mattered, but with those guys, I really started to figure it out, because it was funny. Like they were masters of that, and then we focused on the wrestling side of things, and somewhere in our matches we met in the middle. And I think we walked away with a little bit with more personality than we came in with, and I think they walked away with more wrestling than they came in with. And I think it was a cool trade. There were times where it made me get frustrated because we're literally only wrestling them all the time. Like I remember going to TV in Miami, and we'd film Superstars before we filmed SmackDown. And I wrestled Crime Time in a 2-segment match on Superstars. We wrestled them again in a six-person tag with Natty and Eve on the different teams on SmackDown. So I wrestled them twice in one night. And but I look back on that same thing. I look back on those with a smile on my face, and I really learned. Like I said, I learned a lot from those guys. I learned a lot of just like I said, how important personality and charisma really is.
You went. Obviously, you turned face after a while as a team.
Yeah, WrestleMania.
What do you? I was there for that. What did you prefer, in your personal opinion? Did you prefer it as heel or was face? Was it just cool and being different?
Yeah. So you know what? It's funny. Like if I had to pick one. Oh man, I don't know. I would guess if I had to pick one, and I only can be one for my whole career, I guess I'll say heel. But the truth is, I like doing both, and I like doing one for a little while and switching. And like, there was a time, and maybe it wasn't the all-time best, but I wasn't really being utilized on TV after we break up. And on live events, so technically I was a heel if you would see me on TV. But on live events, since I didn't have like a big TV presence on live events, I just would kind of be a baby face. And it was like, so it was kind of fun on like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to be one thing, and then Monday and Tuesday I'm a different thing. And that was, and then it came full circle when in teaming with Cesaro, because we were heels, and then wrestling the New Day, the fans in Europe turned. I started in Philly at the Royal Rumble. It started there. They were crazy cheering for us there and booing New Day. And then in Europe, after WrestleMania, that tour, it was the most fun I've ever had in my entire career, because we just went on the fly and just felt the crowd's reaction. One night we were in a town in Poland. I know I'm jumping around here, but night we were in a town in
carry
Poland.
on, Mom.
It's the first time WWE's ever been to this city, ever. And their TV is 7 weeks behind American TV. So I don't know if they've seen fans booing New Day yet or not. So they're 7 weeks behind. So to them, New Day is still really liked. So when we come out, it was just literally just kind of judging the crowd to see how it went. And they started booing New Day and chanting New Day sucks. And man, it was so fun. It was so much fun, that tour. That's easily my favorite tour that's the most fun I probably ever had in wrestling.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I want to talk about you as a singles wrestler. And I felt, my personal opinion, your body of work when you went to NXT. Oh. I enjoyed you being NXT. How was it going to NXT to work with the guys you work with? Obviously, there was a plethora of talent in there.
And I knew that. I'm pretty good at I'm not always right by any means, but I'm pretty good at looking at people and knowing that people are talented and seeing the talent in them maybe sometimes before they see their full potential. And I'm pretty good at kind of figuring out, like, okay, if this person can kind of get this and they don't even know it yet, then they're going to become this. And doing NXT, I remember the first time I saw, because I'm good friends with them, and we would stay in contact a lot prior to him getting signed and then him getting signed, Tyler Breeze. But when he came up with the Tyler Breeze character, I knew right then, like, okay, like I have always known this kid has something. He has a lot of something. It's just a matter of putting your finger on it and executing it. And the first time I saw that Tyler Breeze character, and he came out with the phone, and they might have even been against, like, Angelo Dawkins. Might have been the first time I saw him. He does a spin kick to him. The whole match is just Breeze on his phone, and finally he does the spin kick. 1, 2, 3. It's one move. And right then I knew, like, this guy's going to be something. And, like, he's got a lot of, okay, he found it. And I was, like, so happy. And then when I started doing the NXT stuff, Breeze had his character stuff down. And that first takeover, like, on that first arrival, Breeze, I think he and Woods kind of get crushed by Rusev. And then a couple months later on that takeover, he wrestles Sammy. And those guys had an awesome match. And Breeze steals a win. And right then I knew, like, okay, like, he's on this title level, and he's in our world. Man, I don't mean that I don't mean like, oh, we're up here, but I just knew, like, okay, awesome. Like, now give us Breeze. Give me Breeze too. Let me work with this guy. I know I'm now a heel. He's a heel. I don't care. Let me team with him. Let us fight each other. Just give me him, and let me put my hands on this guy, because I can figure some things out that I need to figure out. But my time in NXT was so fun, man. It was so fun. I watched the girls come up and develop what they became, the women. Unbelievable. Paige and Emma on that first arrival, and then Natty and Charlotte on takeover. It was it was horrible to try to follow it with Neville. If I go back in time, I'd ask if we can go on first and let Brett and Rick be out there last. How about that? But yeah, it was fun, man. It was that my NXT time was so fun. To see Neville go from where people maybe just thought he kind of was a good athlete and could do some good stuff, and to actually see and understand that he's actually a great wrestler and a great worker, one of the best I've ever been in the ring with. Sami Zayn was a lot of fun to wrestle. You know, we would once in a while butt heads in a mutual way, putting matches together, just in terms of we both want the best for everything, and it's never with any malice. But once we got out there, it was nothing but fun with Sammy. Like I said, Breeze. My funny story that I talk about NXT a lot is Finn's first day as an active wrestler on the brand is. So we film 4 episodes of NXT in one day, and the first match I don't know if it's the first match on the first show, but on the first show it's Finn and Hideo against myself and Justin Gabriel, and we have 2 segments. And then the next show, episode 2, it's myself against CJ Parker, Juice Robinson, and I cut a promo about Finn. The third show is me against Finn in a 2-segment singles match. And then the 4th show is myself and Breeze against Finn and Hideo, 2 segments. And I remember driving home from Orlando that day and being like, man, I just wrestled 4 matches in under 4 hours. 3 of them were 2-segment matches. I was like, I was proud of myself. I said, not everyone that does what we do can do what we just did. And I had a lot of those moments in NXT. Like there was one time I remember I was like, man, I'm so sick of hearing my own music. I think it played like 7 times in a 3-episode taping. And I was like, I wrestled Breeze in a singles match. We did a promo segment with Regal where he announces the Fatal 4-Way match. Then we did a tag team match, myself and Breeze against Sammy and Neville. And then I wrestled Adam Rose. So sorry, my music played 7 times in 4 episodes. And I was like,
I've had enough for this.
It's not by coincidence that the next time you saw me in NXT, I came out with headphones on. It's not a coincidence. I was sick of hearing my own music. I was done. I was coming out with headphones from then on.
A big thank you to Stephen Ash and Ed Dowling for producing the track. It's Stu's Wrestling Podcast, the theme. So thank you very much for that, lads. Much appreciated. Love it. It fits really well, so cheers. Thanks to you. Big thank you to Mike Angus for the show intro. As always, superb. Chris Dutton, thank you very much for editing once again. Appreciate it, buddy. And also to Lee, who does my website. Lee puts the stuff up on the website. Without you guys, I'd be screwed. So once again, as always, appreciate everything you do for me and the time you spend doing the things you do for me. It means a lot, guys.